Okay, pop quiz for you guys. When it comes to record buyers, who is more likely to actually own a record player? Is it boomers or is it millennials? The answer may surprise you. No, who am I kidding? It's not going to surprise you at all.
Channel 33, RPM, yeah, 33, RPM, Channel 33, RPM, yeah, final gear ever.
Hi, my name is Frank. Welcome back to Channel 33 RPM, your channel for vinyl gear and more. So a couple of weeks ago, I did this video talking about a recent study or recent research that found half of people buying records nowadays do not own a turntable, do not own a record player. And that got a lot of you people talking, a lot of 33ers. There's a lot of chit chat about that. So today, in today's video, I want to delve a little bit deeper into those numbers. All right, those figures, by the way, came from a company called Luminate, and Luminate does data analytics for the entertainment industry. There's a lot of, as I said, there's a lot of conversation when I did the video last time, and some people were saying, well, maybe some of those people who are buying records but don't actually own a record player, maybe they're buying them as gifts. Fair point. Or maybe those individuals do not own a record player themselves, but perhaps there's a record player in the household, and that's what they're using. Fair point as well. It could be both of those, and probably is to a certain extent, a little bit of both of those. I'm not sure if that accounts for the entire discrepancy there, but it does account for some of it. So today, as I said, we're going to delve into these figures a little bit deeper and explore the record buying habits of individuals by generation. Also, I want to say that this channel attracts people of all ages. I don't want to turn this into like a Gen Z versus boomers versus millennials. Let's not even go there. I mean, after all, we know that Gen X is the best generation. Kidding, kind of. As I said, let's dive into this a little bit. The overall stat is 50% of record buyers don't own a turntable. But let's break this down. Again, these numbers come from Luminate. So when it comes to Gen Z, those people, how do we define Gen Z? Gen Z are those people born in the mid to late 90s up until the early 2010s. So of those record buyers, 57% do not own a record player. All right. If you look at these, as people get older, the percentage of people actually own a record player also increases. 52% of millennial record buyers do not own a record player, about half. When it comes to Gen X, 35% do not own a record player, so about 2/3 do own a record player. And when it comes to boomers, 16% of boomers who are buying records do not own a record player. That means 84% of boomer vinyl buyers actually do own a record player. So that is interesting, but probably not surprising, right? When it comes to record buyers, the older you get, the more likely you are to own a record player. And a large part of that is probably due to the fact that Gen X and boomers grew up with records. Maybe they have their old record players. But that's something those generations grew up with. When it comes to millennials and Gen Z, not so much, right? Not so much.
Channel 33 RPM.
As I said in the last video, I don't see this entirely as a bad thing, right? People buying records without owning a record player. In today's age of streaming music and acquiring music through other means, it is a way to support the artists that you love. We know that when you stream music, the artist is not getting a lot of kickback from it. They're not getting a lot of royalties. But when you do buy a physical product, the artist does get more money. So there is, it's not all horrible. There is a bit of a bright side to it. And in some cases, buying records, whatever your record may be, for young people in particular who may buy it first as a way to support the artist or because it looks cool or it's because it might be the in thing, that might be what it takes to actually get them into properly or into collecting records to listen to, right? You may have this on your shelf for a long time and may not initially have a record player and kind of get curious and bring it to your friend's place and play it there and kind of get into vinyl. So that's another positive thing, right? We continually need new people getting into records if we want this to continue and grow after us older collectors are long gone. We want to see this hobby, this passion passed down to the next generation. So that's also a good thing. I think back to when I was a teenager and I really wanted a CD player. I didn't have a CD player yet, but I actually started buying CDs. I joined the Columbia record and CD club, and I got like my 10 or 12 CDs, and I started putting together a small collection before I was able to afford the CD player itself. So I like to think that's what a lot of people are doing with records nowadays as well. I also had questions last week about how Luminate gets this data. How does that all work? So I did get a little bit of information on this. I couldn't get it all because it cost a lot of money to access their actual information. But they base their statistics on an annual or a semi-annual survey of American consumers 13 years of age and older. The survey that this data is based on was done last September and October. It's an online survey of about 4,000 respondents in the U.S. This is the U.S., correctly proportioned to represent the overall U.S. population. So that is how they get it. Of course, there's going to be a reaction to this. There always is. I posted about this on the Facebook group this week, and you guys had all sorts of comments about it. Specifically, I presented the data as I did today, broken down by generation, and I asked you, thoughts? Are you surprised? And here are some of the responses. Chris wrote, "Doesn't surprise me. Young people didn't grow up with records, so I'm not shocked that they aren't into playing the albums they've purchased." Kind of as what we talked about here earlier. Daniel wrote, "This seems consistent with what I noticed immediately about that statistic. It is not the number that do not live in a home with a turntable, it's the number that do not personally own a turntable in their home." So Chris is saying maybe people buying these records don't themselves own a turntable, but there's one in the house that they use. Could be. Blake wrote, "I am hopeful that the records that are being bought are reissues, leaving all the original albums for people like me that want to get into those grooves." Paul Kane wrote, "LPs could have been bought as gifts. For example, Gran buys a record for Billy. Billy has a turntable, Gran does not. Gran bought the record, but Billy listens to it. That definitely could account for a portion of those sales." Frederick wrote, "I don't get this at all. Why buy something that costs the equivalent of a book, a clothing garment, a well-cooked meal, or a visit to the cinema and not even intend to use it?" Yeah, I get it. And that was my initial reaction as well. Then I kind of started thinking, right, if it's a way to support the artist, maybe it's not that bad. Brian wrote, "I can't even begin to imagine buying all this junk in life that we are wasting our money on and then letting it sit there without using any of it." Fair point. Jay wrote, "My problem with it is that the record labels and distributors are looking at it like, hey, they keep buying them and they don't even use them, so let's jack the prices up again. Price increases, always a big concern." And Andreas wrote, "Many are collectors and fans that want to support their artist. They know streaming doesn't really earn the artist anything. Bless them for doing this, turntable or not." Again, something else we talked about earlier today. All right, 33ers, what do you make of this generational breakdown? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. See you again real soon. Till then, keep on spinning.